haven't you sat there instead, jumped up and down and shouted from the rooftops, you've got the wrong person?
No comment.
Did you get a kick out of being involved in these sort of inquiries?
No comment.
Do you think it's a macho type of thing to bring it?
No.
Do you think it will help your notoriety?
No comment.
Do you honestly believe that your actions over the 21st and the 22nd of March 2002 are the actions of an innocent man?
No comment.
Then are you an innocent man?
No comment.
On March 21st, 2002, in the sleepy town of Walton-on-Thames in southern England, a street CCTV camera captured what seemed like an ordinary moment. A 13-year-old girl, Millie Dowler, had just stepped off the school bus after school. Millie was still holding her mobile phone, chatting happily with her friends. She walked leisurely home, the carefree appearance of a teenage girl. But just a few minutes later, everything suddenly became strangely quiet. Millie disappeared without a trace, in the middle of a road that was only a few minutes' walk from her house. It was this sudden disappearance that opened one of the most shocking cases in Britain, leading investigators and public opinion to expose the true face of Levi Bellfield, who would later be known as one of the most notorious and ruthless murderers in British criminal history. Mysterious deaths, seemingly isolated murders in a large city, are actually linked together by a cold-blooded thread. This is the story of the mysterious disappearance of 13-year-old Millie Dowler, the brutal murders in the heart of London, and the years-long journey to bring this cold-blooded killer to light. Millie Dowler is a 13-year-old girl studying at a secondary school in Walton-on-Thames. Millie is the youngest daughter in a warm family. Her parents and older sister always surround her with love. She loves music, has an open and cheerful personality, and always leaves a lovable impression on her friends and teachers. Millie's disappearance quickly became an obsession for the whole community because she represents the image of a normal, innocent young girl who suddenly fell into tragedy. Marcia McDonnell, 19, was a university student living in southwest London. Family and friends described Marcia as a loving, caring girl. Her life seemed to be on the line, with plans for her studies and a promising future. But tragedy struck just steps after Marcia got off the bus to go home. Amélie Delagrange, 22 years old, was a French student studying in London. With her intelligent and friendly personality, Amélie quickly integrated into her new environment and was loved by many friends. Her death on a lawn near a park not only shocked England, but also shocked and angered her family and the French student community. Behind these seemingly unrelated cases is a familiar figure in the London underworld, Levi Bellfield. Born in 1968, he used to work as a nightclub doorman, sometimes taking on security camera installation jobs. Bellfield has the appearance of a drifter, living off odd jobs, but inside is a violent and sick person. He was known in his circle for his cruelty towards women. Bellfield regularly used threats and beatings to control his girlfriends, treating them as his personal property. Having no connection to his victims, he chose his targets completely at random. Young girls, walking alone on the street, unexpectedly became victims of his sick prey. Before the tragedy struck, all three girls had a peaceful, innocent life full of dreams. Millie Dowler, at the age of 13, was still writing the first pages of her teenage years. Her family home was a happy home, where her parents always spent time taking care of her, and her sister was always there for her. Millie loved to sing, loved to chat with friends, and everyone believed that her future would be as bright as any other young girl. No one could imagine that, just one afternoon after school, she would disappear forever. Marcia McDonnell, 19, is living her first years as a student, eager to learn and experience. She often returns home from class with optimism and plans for the future. To her family, Marcia is a source of pride. To her friends, she is a source of encouragement and laughter. Amélie Delagrange, who left her native France to study in London, has the determination of an international student. She enjoys exploring the city, making new friends, and nurturing dreams of a career that will open up new horizons. To everyone, Amélie is the image of courageous and independent youth. In contrast to that innocence and hope, Levi Bellfield was immersed in another world, a world of violence, control, and intimidation. Born into a working-class family, Bellfield's youth was soon linked to the path of corruption. As an adult, he entered the profession of a nightclub doorman, an environment full of contradictions and conflicts. There, Bellfield quickly became known for his aggressive personality. He was often accused of harassing and assaulting women, especially those with whom he had a romantic relationship. After each failed relationship, Bellfield's anger flared even more. He controlled his girlfriends with violence, making them live in fear. His rage and brutality built up over the years like a time bomb, waiting to explode, and when it did, it was on innocent young girls he picked off the streets. In March 2002, the once peaceful town of Walton-on-Thames was suddenly plunged into darkness when 13-year-old Millie Dowler went missing. The last CCTV footage of her shows her getting off a bus, still talking on the phone with a friend. Within minutes, she had vanished as if swallowed up in the middle of a familiar street. Locals and police immediately organized a search, but all efforts were in vain. At that time, no one knew that Levi Bellfield had secretly targeted the girl and made her the target of his sick hunting game. A year later, Bellfield's shadow reappeared. In early 2003, he continued to wreak havoc with a brutal attack. This time, the victim was 19-year-old Marcia McDonnell, who had just returned home from a movie night with friends. As she got off the night bus and walked home, Bellfield ambushed Marcia. He used a hammer to deliver a fatal blow to the back of her head. The brutal blow left Marcia lying just a few feet from her home, completely helpless. These seemingly isolated incidents revealed the emergence of a dangerous predator, striking suddenly with cold cruelty. But these cases were only the beginning. In the following years, Bellfield's crimes escalated to reckless levels. After the gruesome attacks, Levi Bellfield did not stop. On the contrary, he became more and more reckless and aggressive. Every night, he drove around residential areas in London, especially the late-night bus routes. With a cold and haunted gaze, Bellfield watched young girls walking alone, like a predator patiently waiting for the moment to strike. In May 2004, Bellfield decided to carry out an unusual and daring attack. When he spotted 18-year-old Kate Sheedy on her way home, he accelerated his car and drove straight at her. The horrific impact threw Kate onto the road, leaving her with injuries so severe that she was feared to have died. But what Bellfield did not expect was that Kate survived. Despite the painful treatment and the after effects, Kate became the only key witness to escape death at his hands. Her testimony later helped the police reconstruct Bellfield's modus operandi, a predator who not only attacked with a hammer, but also turned his own car into a murder weapon. In August 2004, Levi Bellfield was struck by another tragedy. Amélie Delagrange, 22, had just finished a long day in London when she got off the bus and walked across the lawns of Twickenham Green. The short, quiet path seemed harmless, but in the darkness, Bellfield was watching her every move. In an instant, he rushed from behind and used the hammer to strike Amélie in the head. The fatal blow caused her to collapse on the spot, without having time to call for help. Passers-by later discovered Amélie lying motionless on the grass, her head covered in blood. Although she was rushed to the hospital, she did not survive due to the severity of her injuries. Amélie's death clearly revealed Levi Bellfield's pattern of crimes. Young girls just off the bus, walking alone at night, became his targets. The method of attack was also repeated with cold brutality, either by surprise blows with a hammer or using the car as a weapon. A series of cases with terrifying coincidences made the public and the police begin to realize the murderer was lurking somewhere on familiar streets and he could strike at any time. In all the attacks, civilians were the first to witness the horrific aftermath of Levi Bellfield's attack. The victims lay unconscious just steps from their homes. For them, the scene was both shocking and haunting, as the young women had been on their way home from the bus stop. The case of Amélie Delagrange was particularly shocking. A passerby found Amélie lying on the lawns of Twickenham Green. Her head was covered in blood. The police arrived immediately, but she died from her fatal injuries. Immediately after the crimes, police and forensics conducted a thorough investigation of the crime scenes. What they discovered revealed a terrifying common denominator in the series of crimes. The victims were all found unconscious or dead. There were no signs of prolonged resistance, indicating that the attackers had struck suddenly and with extreme brutality. The autopsy results showed that all the victims had one thing in common: the fatal wounds were concentrated in the head, causing severe brain trauma and rapid death. The weapon was a hammer or similar heavy metal object. The force of the blows indicated that the killer intended to deliver the fatal blow immediately. These were not isolated attacks, but the actions of a serial killer with a clear and coldly calculated method of committing the crimes. The initial investigation was at a standstill as the victims were all young girls who did not know each other, and the perpetrator acted randomly, leaving almost no traces. This made it impossible for the police to determine the motive, making the case even more complicated. Following Amélie Delagrange's death, public pressure forced the police to expand their investigation. Thousands of CCTV footage from across London was collected and meticulously analyzed. During the review, a striking detail emerged. A white Ford Courier was seen near the scene of Amélie's murder and had also been seen in the area of previous attacks. From the camera footage, the police traced the car's owner to Levi Bellfield, a nightclub doorman notorious for his violence against women. The presence of his car at 3 murder scenes made Bellfield the prime suspect. After narrowing in on Levi Bellfield as the prime suspect, the police launched a rigorous surveillance campaign, gathering every piece of evidence they could find, from the Ford Courier's travel history to witness statements to Bellfield's history of violent personal relationships. Several of his former girlfriends described him as an aggressive, controlling man who frequently threatened violence, information that matched the profile of a street attacker, further bolstering suspicions that Bellfield was behind the murders. In November 2006, after months of secret surveillance, the police decided to act. In a carefully planned operation, Levi Bellfield was subdued and handcuffed. What shocked the arresting force was his calm demeanor. No resistance, no fear, a stony face as if all that was happening was completely meaningless to him. After years of terror, the predator in the shadows has finally fallen into the hands of the law. After his arrest, Levi Bellfield was taken into an interrogation room for questioning. There, he denied all the charges against him for the murders and assaults brought by the police. But for hours, Bellfield continued to evade and change details, making the process of interrogation extremely difficult. As investigators referred to each victim, he showed no remorse or sorrow. Instead, Bellfield's cold eyes and indifferent voice sent shivers down the spines of many of the officers present. He appeared indifferent and defiant, as if he were in control, despite the fact that the evidence was mounting against him.
Well, all this similar stuff's coming up, isn't it? Blondes, buses, Levi's cars. Yeah? Why did you do it?
What chance did she have?
No comment.
No chance at all. That gun over her, not once, twice. Leaving her for dead.
No comment.
18 years old.
No comment.
Similarities, Levi. Too many similarities for the question not to be asked, and for you not to say why.
No comment.
No comment. Because you can't say anything, can you?
Thought he's mad. And I drove off and left him.
That coldness and cruelty clearly portrayed a murderer, emotionless, unrepentant, and considering the lives taken as just a meaningless number in his series of crimes. Throughout the investigation, police pieced together a complete picture of Levi Bellfield's crimes. The most important piece of evidence was security camera footage. Bellfield's white Ford Courier was seen near the crime scenes at several of the crimes. This detail helped tie him to victims who had no previous connection. In addition, the testimony of Kate Sheedy, the lucky girl who survived Bellfield's head-on collision, became a living witness. Kate's story accurately described his reckless and ferocious actions, contributing to strengthening the prosecution case. Police also pointed out that Bellfield's movements, identified through CCTV, witnesses, and history checks, all matched the timing of the attacks. Such a repeated pattern could not be explained by chance. All of this was put together into a complete criminal profile, proving that Bellfield was involved in not just a single case, but a series of murders, with consistent methods and victim characteristics. This was a solid foundation for bringing him to justice. In 2008, after years of investigation and preparation, Levi Bellfield finally faced the court. The key evidence surrounding the white Ford Courier, the direct testimony of witness Kate Sheedy, a lucky survivor, and the results of the forensic examination clearly built a portrait of the perpetrator. The trial attracted great public attention when a series of horrifying details in the series of murders were exposed, gradually forcing Bellfield to face the undeniable truth. However, it did not stop there. In 2011, when the echoes of the previous trial had not yet subsided, Bellfield continued to be tried in connection with the disappearance and murder of Millie Dowler. This was a case that haunted the whole of Britain for nearly a decade, making the trial the focus of attention of the press and the public. New evidence and testimony gradually revealed the truth, making Bellfield the central figure in one of the most shocking cases in modern British history. Throughout the trial, Levi Bellfield sat there with a cold, emotionless face. He rarely showed any emotion, as if those brutal crimes had nothing to do with him. When questioned, Bellfield firmly denied everything, maintaining an indifferent attitude that made the entire courtroom shudder. The defense attorneys had suggested that Bellfield might have suffered from a mental disorder to mitigate his criminal liability. However, forensic examinations, witness testimony, and investigative records proved that he was fully competent. This argument was quickly rejected by the court. When the verdict was announced, the atmosphere in the courtroom became heavy. The victims' families burst into tears, carrying with them the pain of loss that could not be overcome. But it was also the moment when justice was served. On the contrary, Bellfield remained expressionless, without a trace of remorse or regret, the embodiment of a cold-blooded murderer to the end. After all the intense trials, Levi Bellfield received the most severe sentence in the British legal system: whole life order, life imprisonment, never pardoned or pardoned, permanently isolated from society. The verdict received overwhelming public support. The British people considered it a fair and just verdict for the man who had taken the lives of innocent young girls and spread fear throughout the community. For many, the whole life order was not only a punishment for Bellfield, but also a strong message that justice will never be lenient in the face of brutal crimes. The Levi Bellfield case has left a haunting reminder to the whole of Britain. Even in the most familiar and safe streets, there can still be killers hiding in plain sight, choosing random targets to commit their crimes. The deaths of Millie Dowler, Marcia McDonnell, and Amélie Delagrange are not only a tragic loss for their families and friends, but also a wake-up call for the whole of society. It forces everyone to be more vigilant and raises questions about the responsibility of the legal system and the authorities to protect the most vulnerable. More than anything, Bellfield's sentence is proof that justice may be slow to come, but it will not escape the perpetrator. The tears in the courtroom, the pain of the victims' relatives, and the lingering trauma in the community are reminders that society must never forget. Safety is never absolute, and evil can lurk anywhere. In your opinion, is the sentence of life imprisonment without parole fair enough for Levi Bellfield? And what haunts you most about this case? The coldness of the perpetrator, the pain of the family, or the loopholes in the initial investigation? Leave your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you for watching until the end.